Hi friends, this is Audi1 and you're watching part 6 of the sqli lab series. Today we are going to cover double query injections, or in technical terms subquery injections, which are sometimes also referred to as error based blind, but I would not call them blind because we are fully aware of what the error message is, how to interact with the database, and how we can retrieve the results. For those who are watching it for the first time and are not familiar with error-based injections, I would recommend that you go back and watch part 1 to 5 of this series. The links are mentioned in the description below. Let's start. From the experience that we gained from our previous videos, our first step was to just enumerate the application. So lesson 5 is about double query injections and lesson 6 is also about double query injections. So I'm going to show you based on lesson 5. So we say id equals 1. This time we see a different message. You are in. Let's say id equals 2. You are in. id equals 3. Again you are in. So if we try to build up a query, it would be something like select column 1, column 2, column 3 from a table where id equals your input 1, 2, 3, 4. And as we see in the previous chapters, when we were putting id equals 1, 2, 3, we were getting an output on the screen which was username and password. But in this case, the database output is not being displayed on the screen. It's just some kind of a static message, or maybe it could be some other page. So in this case, if we try to do the same kind of injections that we did in the previous videos with the union select, we will not be able to see what the database dumps for us. The database definitely would dump everything, but that information will not be visible to us, so will be of no use. So first and foremost, we have to try and see, can we interact with the database in certain way? We don't see any input, or we don't see any output coming from the database when we provide some input. So let's try to break the query. Let's use a colon. Okay, the query gets broken. Let's try to see what the developer has put in by giving the escape character, and we see that there is a single quotes. I have already outlined this query for you. So select column 1, column 2, column 3 from table where id and single quotes are input. So when we provide, let's say 3 and a quote, then we can either balance it or a single quote 1, and we already know that there is a quote present, so this injection should work for us. And it works. We can also use the comments. Let's comment out the rest of the query. And it works. What we did till now, if you see, what was the output from the database that we could see? The output from the database that we could see on the screen was in form of MySQL error. So if we are able to produce a MySQL error in a controlled way, then with that error we can extract the information we want. Looks complex, but it is not. Before continuing any further, let me take you through to the MySQL prompt and let's do some basics here. Let's discuss some functions. First function we discuss is a count function. Which just returns us the number of rows. Select count from, let's take an example table, information underscore schema dot tables, and we get a count back as 127. That means there would be 127 rows in it. Let's try another one. Select random. As the name suggests, the random function produces a float, or let's say decimal values, which are random. The value is between 1 and 0. So whenever I am running this, we see a random value on screen. You can do all other mathematical operations on this, like adding some value to it, maybe multiplying it with some value, like let's multiply it with 4. Another function that I would like to talk about is the floor function. So if we take this random value and pass it on to this floor function, it's going to return me 2, and it's going to discard all other things, all things behind the decimal. So by combining the floor and the random function, we can successfully generate a random integer. Let's try that. Select random, let's say into 2, and let's see, it generates, okay, it generates some value. And let's put across the floor function. So it generates us an integer value between, which is either 1 or 0. A thing to note here, the title or the column name is what we provided. The floor function, then the rand function into 2. We can also provide an alias to it, like as, let's call it dump. So the name becomes dump. We can also use it without as. So this is being nicknamed as dump. Another interesting function that I would like to introduce here is a group by clause. If you remember, in the last videos, we had used a group concat function to combine all the entries inside a column as a string. A group by function, as the name suggests, will group on the unique individual entity. Let's take an example. Select table underscore name, table underscore schema from information underscore schema dot tables group by table underscore schema. If you remember, the security database has 4 tables, but it's just returning one of them as we grouped by the table schema. So this entry has to be a unique, only one entry. It removes the duplicate from showing. Okay, all said and done. Let's come to what we were thinking of, dumping everything in form of a SQL error. Let's do it. Select database. Okay, it dumps us the current database. Let's just copy this, and this is the first building block that we are using. Let's go back and let's do something more stupid. Now we are saying between the parentheses, select database, whatever is the output, select that, and let's see if it works. Yes, it works. Okay, let's do another thing. Let's concat it. Why we are concating it? Just to dump the string, and we can use some fancy characters. Let's copy these building blocks as well. For ourselves, so as to not make things complex. Do it one at a time. Now let's add some fancy displays. 0x3a, comma 0x3a, comma, this is the hex value for a colon. Oh, we did a typo here. Let's copy the string as well. While we are building small blocks, we have to be careful about the parenthesis, because one parenthesis here and there just breaks the query. That is why I'm just copying them down as we are building it. Now this name again is big, so let's give a nickname. Anything short and sweet. A. Looks okay. Now let's add some randomness to it. Floor rand. This technique of dumping the information in form of SQL errors is not discovered by me. Some intelligent researchers did a lot of hard work, and they churned and milked the database in such a way that we can just use their work. So if you see, we added some randomness. Let's try to do it. Yes. So the string contains sometimes zeros, sometimes ones. Now let's do it a bit more. Let's add multiple values by defining any random table to it. From information underscore schema dot columns. 1263 rows. You can also use, let me copy this. Tables or any database from information schema that you want. It has 127. Let's copy this as well. Okay. Now comes the time for some magic. Let's add another column here called count. Count star comma concat this whole thing, and we would be grouping by this A, and we see the output, some 60 zeros and some 67 ones. After some tries, we get an error message. This error is being generated based on the randomness. So if we say duplicate entry, some information is dumped, for key group key, and this is a MySQL error. let's, rather than using tables, let's use columns. We get an error message again. Let's copy this statement. I think it did not copy. Let's copy it again. This is a redundant row, so I removed it. Okay, so this statement just gives us the error duplicate entry security 1 for key group key, but in this error message it dumped us the core part, the database name, what we had actually asked it to do. Instead of putting database, let's try it and let's try it with version. It dumps us the version. Let's try the current user or the user. So we get the error, and in the error it dumps us the user. Same way we can dump the database. Let's do it. So instead of user, this is the core query. So let's say select table underscore name from information underscore schema dot tables, where table underscore schema equals database, the current database. And we get an error message that says subquery returns more than one row. That's correct, because we did not define the limit function. Database limit 1 comma 1 or 1 comma 0. Duplicate entry reference, and reference is our table name. We can just iterate over and we get the U agents. emails. Users. So same way, by just changing the core query inside the complete query, we can just dump the SQL error, and in the dump we can just extract the information we are looking for. An innovative and brilliant way of speeding up things. The video is getting longer, so I'll discuss how to do it on the front end in the next video. Guys, I would request you to please leave a feedback. That feedback would help me improve the videos and motivate me to just create more and more. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.